Bismillah. Bismillah. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, in about 10 minutes, we can go ahead and get started. So please get your breakfast and we'll get there, inshallah.
Doctor, can I can I start while they're
one more minute مثلا. هو في حوالي 14 سؤال على already يعني.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أصبحنا وأصبح الملك لله والحمد لله لا شريك له، لا إله إلا هو إليه النشور. أصبحنا على فطرة الإسلام وكلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين. اللهم إنا أصبحنا منك في نعمة وعافية وستر، فأتم علينا نعمتك وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما أصبح بنا من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك، فلك الحمد ولك الشكر. يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to part 2, which will be inshallah the last session for this presentation, Islamic Finance 101. Briefly, just to recap, yesterday we started our presentation by explaining what does finance mean from an industrial perspective, and if you add to it Islamic finance, what does it mean? What are the main characteristics of Islamic finance, and why I'm calling this presentation 101. And then we identified or came up with a definition for riba, the one that we are discussing in this presentation, this very particular category of riba. And then we concluded that this is a risk-shifting finance as opposed to the risk-sharing one, which is the one that we embrace and practice in the Islamic finance. The challenge that we face is the discrepancy between what we read in traditional books as what we come across in the real life and day-to-day transactions and business that we conduct in this society. Our job is to reinterpret or unlock the secret of contemporary transactions and find out if it is proven that someone is offering money without taking any risk, while the principal that he or she is offering is guaranteed, and the return on investment on top of it is guaranteed as well. That is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. And then we started, before the examples, we emphasized legal maxim or fiqh maxim, right, which is al-ibratu fil uqud lil maqasid wal ma'ani la lil alfadhi wal mabani. What matters in transactions is the essence and reality of the wording and the formality. And then we started giving examples on how to take some case studies from the real life, right? Why saving account is not a halal option, why overdraft charge is not a halal option, home mortgage, and so forth. And then we went ahead to the opposite examples. We talked about cashback and owner finance with interest. There was a question yesterday. Who was here yesterday? There was a question yesterday. If the owner of the car is offering you $10,000 price for the car cash, or $12,000 ila ajal, like an installment sale, and he as a non-Muslim insisted in writing in the contract $10,000 price plus $2,000 interest, can you proceed with this transaction? Will those $2,000 be counted as interest, the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited? Okay. And then we ask another question, like for more confusion, right? What if you went ahead and took a loan from a bank, $10,000, and you paid it as a price, and you paid the bank $12,000? Okay. Are those two different scenarios equivalent, identical, take the same rule? Who has an answer? Other than this gentleman, because actually we discussed it individually after the presentation. Okay, give me an answer. Yes, sir. The first one is halal, the owner finance. But the seller actually insisted in adding riba, interest. Why it's halal? طيب, جزاك الله خير. Another attempt. Yes, sir. So the first scenario, basically, there is, yes, sir. Very good. So in the first scenario, there is no loan to start with. No one actually is lending you money. So whatever he counts or perceive, right, or label as interest, from your perspective, it's not interest, right? It is بيع بالتقسيط, an installment sale. Now let me ask you this. Even if the Islamic finance principles, okay, are like implemented perfectly fine, if the market value of the car is $10,000, okay, can the seller ask for $12,000 cash? Can he overprice, inflate the price, and ask for $12,000 cash? Yes or no? There is a lot of transparency in the market, right? You just go to kbb.com or just CarMax, enter the specification of the car, and you will find out that its market value is 10,000, while the seller actually is trying to take advantage of you by asking for $12,000. You take it or you leave it. There is a lot of transparency. Now, my argument here is that if he does have the right, to ask for $12,000 cash for a car where its market value is $10,000, why cannot he break down those $12,000 into 1 year installment? You see the argument here? If he does have the right to ask cash 12,000, why cannot he break it down into 1 year installment? This is, by the way, one of the cases where the Islamic finance system does acknowledge what is called the time value. Does acknowledge the time value. Sometimes we call it in business or in economics, we call it the opportunity cost. Opportunity cost in a sense that in our example yesterday, John Smith, the non-Muslim neighbor that you want to buy the car from, he compromised the opportunity of selling that car to somebody else for $10,000 cash. If he has done so, he would have been able to make $2,000 profit from those $10,000 cash within 1 year. He did compromise that opportunity to make you happy and give you the car, right? Now, هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان, right? He did you a favor by giving you the car installment, okay, for 1 year. Now, in return, you are expected to pay him the difference or the opportunity cost or the 2,000 potential profit that he compromised to make you happy. Now, it's absolutely not the case. Not the case. If you have gone to a bank and you borrowed $10,000 cash, okay, to pay John Smith, and then you paid those $10,000, 12,000 within 1 year, that's a straightforward interest-bearing loan. So my point here is that it's very, very possible that the outcome result of the transaction could be the same, but the mechanism actually is different, or the method of finance is different. And based on the mechanism or the method of finance, that transaction might be halal and might be haram. Is that clear? Okay, so that is the owner finance. By the way, what if you have made a deal, again, with John Smith, okay, $12,000 for 1 year. Now, once you close and you sign, then actually the price is fixed. The price is fixed, and no extra money is to be paid, right? Even if you decide to prepay him, okay, he is not obligated to make a discount for you. You told him, John, I do have money, so 6 months actually would be good. Can you discount for me proportionally the extra interest or profit? If he says no, that's absolutely his right. Why? Because the price actually is fixed, the duration is fixed, everything is fixed. So once we sign an agreement, it's going to be $12,000 for 1 year. Before signing the agreement, okay, he can give you unlimited options, believe it or not. He can say, listen, this is $10,000 cash, $12,000 1 year installment, $13,000 2 years installment, $14,000 3 years installment. He can give you unlimited options. As long as we are still in the negotiation stage, he can give you as many options as he wants. Once you pick and choose one option, then that's it. It is binding for you and for him. Clear? Right. Yes, sir. have to start all over. What happened to your Sherwali yesterday? It was like very comfortable one. No, Sherwali, the Pakistani. Okay. So here is the answer, Habibna. In the real life, the car dealership and the manufacturer and the finance department, in most cases that I'm aware of, they are completely independent entities, right? Financially, administratively, legally speaking, the manufacturer, Nissan, for example, okay, Nissan like manufacturer, as opposed to Nissan car dealership, as opposed to Nissan finance, they are completely different departments, different entities. There is no connection between them. Having said that, if you want to finance Nissan 2025, okay, and the finance department is not offering you 0 APR, annual percentage rate, right? Offering you 5% based on your credit score, based on income, different factors. Unless you can prove that the finance department is 100% owned by the Nissan car dealership, you cannot finance, because you are borrowing money from a third party for interest. Because you are borrowing money, okay, with interest from a third party. If you can prove otherwise, that Nissan finance is 100% owned by Nissan car dealership, even if they ask for 5% APR, annual percentage rate, go for it. Because the riba here actually is a very nominal. It's very unreal. It's exactly like John Smith asking for $2,000 extra on top of the, see what I'm saying? Now, the most prevailing practice that I'm aware of is that maybe more than 95% of the cases that I came across, again, the manufacturer is different, independent from the car dealership. Car dealership, believe it or not, do not even own the cars. They are just a kind of platform to receive the cars from manufacturer, and they sell for a certain commission. And the finance department, although it holds the same parent name, oh, this is Nissan finance, oh, this is Nissan car dealership. But again, in the real life, they are completely independent. Since they are independent, then yes, you are borrowing money from a third party with interest. What if the offer is 0 APR? 0 APR, that's equivalent to holding credit card. Am I correct? So you can use your credit card as long as you know how to handle the credit card, no cash withdrawal. You pay the monthly statement, monthly balance in full before the due date. How much interest you pay? 0, right? Likewise, if it is if it is proven that the finance department is owned by the car dealership, then there is no loan to start with. This is just bay'un bit-taqsit, an installment sale. Okay, I have heard about some cases, I think in North Carolina, I'm not sure if it is a state issue or federal issue, that the finance department is 100% owned by the car dealership. This actually brings to my attention a very good option when it comes to home mortgage that most of us might not be aware of. If you can prove that the home builder or the construction company owns 100% of the finance department, okay, can you own or finance with the home builder? Yes, you can, believe it or not. Even if they ask you to sign sale agreement and to sign loan agreement, well, there is no loan. There is no loan to start with, right? In the state of Texas, like in my state, the government actually does not care about the percentage of ownership. They do not see that conflict of interest. Some other states that I'm aware of, they do not allow, like the government, okay, does not allow home builders or construction companies to own more than 70% of the finance department. Why? Because of the conflict of interest. Because the finance department is the one who's going to do the appraisal and the one who's going to do the finance for you. So there is a clear conflict of interest. You see my point here? So some states do not allow. If you live in a state where the government does not allow home builders to own more than 70%, you cannot do owner finance because you are borrowing 30% of the price of the house from a third party. When it comes to haram and halal, whether you borrow 1% or 30% or 100%, it doesn't make a difference. You see? If you can prove that the state of Ohio, right, does allow home builders to own 100% of the finance department, That is actually a Sharia compliant one, way better than what is called Islamic mortgage companies. Can you educate me more about the state? Do you have like any idea whether or not the state of Ohio does allow builders? Yeah, that's a good idea if you can use the. That's Habibna completely different discussion. Let's draw a line, right, between having the finance arm owned completely by the home builder, which makes the transaction halal to my knowledge, because the interpretation of this deal is what's called عقد الاستصناع. عقد الاستصناع means in English manufacturing sale. Someone has the raw materials, like the cement and the hadid and the everything, and has his own laborers. So he is willing to build a house from scratch for you, from A to Z, like turnkey, for $500,000. He takes the risk and the liability of building that house from scratch, right? He's fully responsible for building the house from A to Z. So the risk that we are discussing like over and over is there. Like during those 3 or 4 or 6 months, okay, construction, he is taking full liability. Now, because of the liability that he is taking, he is definitely entitled to ask for whatever profit or markup that he is looking for. So he pays out of pocket $500,000, and he sells that house for you for $700,000 in installment for the next 20 years. Even if he calls it interest or call it like whatever you want, we don't care. By the way, why they ask you to sign a loan agreement? This is how the system works in the US. There is something called secondary market, Freddie Mac and Freddie Mae. Next day in the morning, he just turns his face and like he gives that contract. They securitize the contract, selling it like for Freddie Mac and Freddie Mae, getting their cash money and moving on with different customers. So over and over, العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. What matters in transactions is the essence and the reality, not the wording or the formula. There is no loan to start with. Even if there is a document called loan, okay, we do not acknowledge, okay, or at least I do not acknowledge that loan. So do yourself a favor here and just verify in the state of Ohio if the state does allow home builders to own their own finance arm or department 100%. That's the best option for you. You will be buying a brand new house, ما سكنه أحد قبلك, right? With the minimum so-called interest rate, which is a profit rate, right? More importantly, it's a Sharia compliant option. It's a Sharia compliant option. This actually brings to our attention a third example. I'll let you. Third example. How about the foreclosed houses? Do you remember, like back in 2008, 2009, when the housing industry in the USA was collapsed and a lot of houses get foreclosed, right? Can you purchase foreclosed house, okay, and finance with the owning bank, like Chase, for example, foreclosed the property because the previous one stopped paying. So Chase actually became the owner of the house, right? The market value of the house is $100,000, okay, and on papers it's $500,000. Chase actually is giving you 3 options. Give me $100,000 cash, or you just go ahead and shop around for another financer to finance you. If you decide to finance with me, I'll be more than willing to give you a finance, right? Finance for you. And they finance for you $100,000. They ask you to pay a total of $150,000, right? So $100,000 principal or price and $50,000 interest. Can you purchase that house if you are 100% positive that the financier is Chase and the owner of the house is Chase? Yes or no? Yes. This is to my knowledge. If you ask Sheikh Salah Hastawi, has like different opinion. And actually we had this argument back in 2008, 2009 within the Resident Fatwa Committee. And we ended up having getting it split into three different like sub-parties. Some people believe that it's halal. I'm one of those individuals who believe it's halal. Sheikh Walid al-Minesi, my colleague, he believes it is halal. Another one or two members were like undecided since 2008 until today. They are still undecided. And some, some members said no, it's haram because there is a loan agreement. Sheikh Hatim al-Hajj and some others. So if you ask me now in 2024, I still believe wholeheartedly that foreclosed houses, as long as you can prove that the financier is the owner, okay? If you get surprised by someone from Capital One, from Freddie Mac, coming on the day of closing to close, do not move on with the deal. That's a third party. Make sure that Chase is the owner, Chase is the financier. If that is proven, you're good to go. Clear? Yes, sir.
Now building probably on Jazakumullah khairan ala al-ilm awalan, building on the two cases of the house mortgage and on the car example that was mentioned, and the credit card. If the contractual agreement states that there is a penalty for delay, so I have a credit card, I'll take the credit card example, where I will be paying definitely before the 30 days. I will use it as if it's a debit. I will not pay any interest. However, the contractual agreement that I've signed with the bank states that I will
Penalty
be
clause.
paying. And if the same for the car, the same for the mortgage. So how would that stand? هل العقد
It is jammed actually. I'm switching here, but it's not switching there. Can we just unplug again? Bismillah. Let's get frozen. Penalty clause, Akhil Kareem, is the upcoming example. I'm about to discuss it. Is it? طيب. Now I do not see the presentation in front of me.
The topic is hard, that's why.
Yeah, very hard. You have wonderful materials here. So, what do you see here? Fine. Okay. So you see our job, fiqh maxim examples. Here is a third example. So we discussed the cashback, right? Is the cashback halal? Cashback, طيب. Owner finance with interest, is it halal? Okay. طيب. Penalty clause. بعدين. طيب. Okay. Penalty clause actually is where you sign an agreement with a construction company to build you a house, right? And the turnkey, let's say for example, December 31st, 2024. You set your lease agreement with the apartment, okay, to end in December 31st, 2024. Okay. If you stay behind, like if you do not leave the apartment, you have to go day by day or month by month, and they're gonna charge you extra, right? In order for you to make sure that the contractor will adhere to the contract and submit on time, right? You add a penalty clause because you will be incurring extra expenses because of his delay, right? Now let's analyze what's going on here. First of all, is there any loan agreement involved here? Is there any loan agreement? Are you borrowing money from the contractor? Answer is no. What is the nature of this deal between you and the contractor? What do you call it? عقد استصناع. Okay. Manufacturing sale. Manufacturing sale. Now, the third question. Who is paying the penalty here? Is it you, the customer, or the construction company? Okay. Is there any legitimate reason behind charging him penalty? Yes, because actually you are incurring loss. You are paying extra money because of his delay. You see? So there is no loan to start with. The whole agreement is manufacturing sale. Okay. Because of his delay, you ask for extra money, like to cover your extra expenses. That absolutely would be fine. So penalty clause, okay, within this context is a halal one. Penalty clause within this context, right, is a halal one. Now, if penalty clause is mentioned somewhere else, I need to read more about it. To find the surrounding circumstances. Is there any loan agreement involved? Is there any interest involved? Based on that, I can give you an answer. But within this context, within this example, penalty clause actually is halal. Can you give me more details?
So I'm using a credit card. I'm not paying any APR because I pay within the first 5 days or 10 days. So I'm not incurring any interest for long years. But the contractual agreement with the bank states that in the case of delay, you would pay a 4% or a 3%, whatever APR per month. And I'm not paying it, but the contract states that.
There is a difference. There is a difference in the Islamic finance system between what is called al-haramu li-dhatihi as opposed to al-haramu li-ghayrihi. Al-haramu li-dhatihi is whatever is prohibited for itself by itself. For itself by itself. I will explain. Al-haramu li-ghayrihi is whatever is prohibited because of its potential consequences. Al-haramu li-dhatihi is in our example, is the unavoidable riba. When you walk to Bank of America and you apply for business loan for 5% APR, you cannot proceed with the loan without committing yourself to paying 5% APR. So the riba here actually is unavoidable. As opposed to al-haramu li ghayrihi, when you expose yourself to riba, right? But riba is avoidable. Exactly like when you hold a credit card. You show your consent, you click online or like whenever you go to a bank and apply, whatever. Okay, you show your consent that in case of using the credit card for cash withdrawal, for example, I will be charged service fees plus interest, right? In case of not paying my monthly statement in full or paying it after the due date, I'm willing to pay interest, right? Now, the fact that you are committing yourself to pay interest, does it mean that riba is unavoidable? No, it's still avoidable actually. Okay. Now, it is still avoidable. Like if you pay on time, if you stay away from cash withdrawal, right? Then the total amount that you pay as interest will go down to zero, right? Now, based on this classification, our fuqaha said, al-haramu li-dhatihi la tubihu illa ad-darura. Whatever is identified as prohibited for itself by itself. Remember, walk into a bank and borrowing money with interest. لا تبيحه إلا ضرورة. Cannot be permitted unless there is a necessity, right? While الحرام لغيره تبيحه الحاجة. Whatever is prohibited because of its potential consequences would be permitted in case of public and general need. Public and general need. So riba and holding credit card is avoidable, number one. So is it حرام لذاته or حرام لغيره؟ بحب النبي يزوق حرام لذاته ولا لغيره؟ لغيره. طيب. Is it avoidable? Is there a need for us Muslims living in this society to hold a credit card in general? Maybe your need is different than her need, different than my need. But generally speaking, is there a need for us to hold a credit card? Yes, there is a need, right? Some transactions cannot be done without having credit card. Is that correct? To build your own like credit history, okay, credit scores, you have to hold a credit card. So there is a public and general need for holding credit card, and as well as riba is avoidable, and that's why using credit card actually is allowed, as long as you know how to handle, how to manage the credit card without falling into interest. Clear? طيب تفضل. That is another debatable issue. We have a conservative school, and we have, I would say, like otherwise, right? Conservative school says that any kind of work, any job, whether directly or indirectly involved in processing loans, lending money, is not allowed, because the core business of the finance company is to lend money with interest, okay? And their source of income actually is the riba, okay, that they charge. Is that correct? So this is one opinion. Other opinion says no. If that individual is working in a department or on a job that is directly involved in lending money with interest, okay, then that job actually is haram. If you are like an IT or engineer or cybersecurity guy, or maybe like CEO or whatever, then your job actually is still halal. Okay, it's not explicitly haram. It's highly recommended to avoid, but it's not like as haram as working as a lender or working as a loan officer. I belong to the conservative one. I mean, I wholeheartedly believe that working for a bank is not halal. Whether you are, excuse me, a driver or bodyguard or engineer or cybersecurity or CEO or like, you know, loan up, it does not make any difference, because all these departments are fully integrated with one another, you know, to facilitate the job of the bank, which is lending money with interest. Clear? طيب. I just want to make sure that you are not getting lost here. We started yesterday giving examples on how to apply العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا الألفاظ والمباني, and we came up with the practical examples from our real life here in this society: saving account, overdraft charge, home mortgage. And then we moved on to the opposite examples, like certain transactions that might appear or look like as haram, but in reality they are halal. For example, cashback, owner finance with interest, penalty clause. So that's the difference between this slide and this one. Those examples actually are not allowed: saving account, overdraft charge, home mortgage. While those examples, although they might look like riba based, but they are not. They are still halal one. طيب, can we move on? Okay. Now, in the Islamic finance system, we do not believe in the risk shifting model. We have to make sure that the financier, or the one who is giving the money, okay, the one who gives the money, is taking a certain amount of liability and risk that is sufficient enough to justify the profit that he is looking for. Okay, and if there is any so-called Islamic finance contract or Islamic mode of finance where it is 100% proven that the financier is not taking any risk, where the principal is guaranteed and the return on top of the principal is guaranteed, that particular contract is a haram one. That particular contract is a haram one. So let's take, for example, مضاربة, مشاركة, مرابحة, إجارة, استصناع. Okay. Let's pick the مرابحة one. مرابحة means cost plus. It goes as follows. The Islamic bank or the Islamic mortgage company has to buy the property, close on it, becomes the legal owner of that property, right? Of course, because of their financial ability, they can like buy it cash, spot sale for $500,000, and then they can sell it back to you for $700,000 credit sale installment for the next 20 years. If it is done this way, that the bank is getting involved in buying the property, right, becoming fully liable for owning a property. La samhallah, something happened in between, let's say natural disaster, like what happened in Florida last week. The bank will be the exclusive party who will be responsible for the loss. If that is proven, should we start all over? So the murabaha itself actually is halal, but sometimes there is a difference between the principles of murabaha, okay, the principles of murabaha or the theory of murabaha, and the implementation of murabaha. Okay, exactly like the difference between Islam and Muslims nowadays. Islam is a perfect way of life. Muslims actually are not, or some Muslims are not perfect. So murabaha actually is good, ijara is good, istisna is good, and so forth. But sometimes the application is misused or abused, right? Purposely, unpurposely, intentionally, that's completely different discussion. But the implementation of the mode of finance actually is not authentic enough. Okay, this actually does not affect the permissibility of the murabaha. Okay, it affects that particular content because it was not implemented correctly. Now, this brings to our attention something very important, which is the practice of the so-called Islamic mortgage companies in the USA. Generally speaking, unless otherwise proven, generally speaking, banks, finance institutes, mortgage companies are not allowed to make profit from real estate business. They are not. Their job is just harbullahi wa rasuli, giving money for interest, no more and no less, right? Now, if in the Islamic finance system, okay, we have a mortgage company, right? And that mortgage company is willing to give you the house based on musharaka. They have to own the property jointly with you before selling it back with a higher price, or before like renting and selling, declining partnership. If they want to go with the murabaha, they have to own the property before selling it back for a markup. If they want to finance you through ijara, they have to purchase the property and act as the landlord, as the lessor for 30 years, right? And then they can transfer the title to you. So there is no way to skip the ownership. There is no way to skip the ownership, the legal own. It has to be proven from day one before we proceed. You have to own before you do the musharaka. You have to own before you do the ijara, lease to own. You have to own before you do the murabah. Well, in the system here, in the mortgage code, again, unless otherwise proven, banks are not allowed to own the properties. And that's actually the exact dilemma that the so-called Islamic mortgage companies actually are experiencing in this society. Okay, they have to show Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae that we do not own the property, we are not responsible for anything, right? And they turn their face to the Muslim community and say, no, we are partners with you, we own the property, we are responsible for such and such cases. So they have to wear two different hats at the same time, which is actually impossible. There is a severe incompatibility between the Islamic finance system and the riba-based one. You either own the property, okay, and you hold yourself responsible and liable for the consequences of owning the property, or otherwise you are just a lender. So you need to be like honest with yourself from day one. Are you a partner or you're a lender? Lender means non-Islamic, right? You don't have to own the property because you lend money for interest, okay? You want to practice Islamic finance, then you have to own the property. Well, if you have any business to do with the secondary market, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, you cannot own the property, period. Maybe with like very few exceptions here or there, you see? And that's actually where the problem is coming from, the dilemma is coming from. They cannot practice genuine, sound, authentic Islamic finance because all of them actually report to the secondary market. All of them securitize the contracts and sell them in the secondary market. You see what I'm saying? So in order for those contracts to be sellable to Freddie Mac has to make sure that this is a very traditional, straightforward mortgage agreement. Loan, 500, like $500,000 to be paid back $800,000 within the next 30 years. If they sense or just smell anything related to maintenance or tax or insurance or liability, appreciation, depreciation, they will say, sorry, you are by your own. We cannot proceed, sorry. That is how the system works. So again, this is actually where the financial hypocrisy, if you wish, is coming from. They act in front of the community in a way that is different from the way that they act in front of the financier, which is Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, with a few exceptions. I mean, just to make it clear, with a few exceptions. Back to our discussion. The Islamic finance system, if that liability or risk is not proven, then that particular contract is not a Sharia compliant one. Even if it is claimed to be otherwise, even if it is called murabah or musharaka, again, over and over. العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. Okay, Mudaraba actually is a trustee partnership. Money from one side, management from the other side. Someone has a successful car dealership business, or construction company. Somebody else in the community has $1 million. Okay, doctor maybe like extremely busy, doesn't have that business mentality to invest that money, does not have time, not interested actually in investing the money. He or she wants to give that money to somebody else. Okay, you either give that money as a loan or you give it as an investment. There's nothing in between. If I'm to give someone loan $1 million, that loan actually has to be guaranteed, because as a practicing Muslim, you and I'm not expecting you to pay me interest, and I'm not asking for interest. So the minimum that I can go with is, here is $1 million, you pay it back to me $1 million, no more and no less. It has to be guaranteed, right? Now, if I decide to give you the money as an investment, then I cannot guarantee the principal. I cannot guarantee. Here is $1 million, okay, to use it in your construction business or car dealership. If there is a profit, I will be entitled for, based on the market value of the business and other factors, I'm asking for 30% of the net profit, not 30% of the principal. Be careful, okay? In the mudaraba, the share of each party has to be identified as a certain percentage of the net profit, if there is a net profit. So here is $1 million, use it in your car dealership business. Once the business cycle or the business course or the fiscal year is over, let's sit down and find out. If there is a profit, I will be entitled for 30% of the net profit. Are you okay with that? If he says yes, then that's the mudarab. Okay. What if there was no profit? Then I cannot even go after him and ask for 30% money, because basically there is no profit. Worst case scenario, there was no negligence, there was no misconduct, mismanagement, none of the above. Okay, something happened, act of God, as they say, something out of his control. He was unable to make a profit, unable to break even. He just lost the principle itself. Well, believe it or not, I cannot go after him and ask for my principle. I cannot. Back home in Jordan, there is a very common mistake. Anyone from Jordan here? حدا أردني؟ ولا حدا؟ فلسطيني, Lebanese, Suri. There you go. Back in Jordan, people actually give money to one another, and the financer actually calls himself Sharik Mdarib. Have you heard this term? Sharik Mdarib. He gives him money and say, listen, here is $1 million, but I want you to pay me every single month $40,000 profit for that $1 million. Every single month you have to pay me how much? $40,000 net profit for that investment. I'm your partner, but you need to pay me the profit, okay, as a certain amount, as a fixed amount, 20, 30, 40, whatever the amount might be. Well, this is not a mudaraba. This is an interest-bearing loan, believe it or not. Because actually, based on that agreement, you are asking for a certain amount to be paid to you regardless of the profitability of the business, whether or not there was a profit. Okay? And toward the end of the agreement, you ask for your principal to be paid back. So you are guaranteeing the principal and you are guaranteeing the profit on top of it. That's actually the exact nature of riba. That's the exact nature of riba. We said yesterday several times, okay, riba actually is a premium that has to be paid by the borrower to the lender along with the principal amount as a condition for the loan. And now you are putting a condition. Here's $1 million and you have to pay me $20,000 every single month. This is my share of the profit. You cannot do that. You can take money in account, by the way, okay, because the expected profit is whatever amount. So can you give me from now $5,000 in account? If there is an actual profit, whatever I have taken will be credit for me, right? Will be settled based on the actual profit. If there was no profit whatsoever, I have to pay back that money. That would be fine. That would be fine, because you are not guaranteeing the principal, you are not guaranteeing the profit on top of it. So that is the mudarab one. Musharaka one actually is just a joint ownership. Okay, joint ownership. So we buy the property jointly. Buy the property jointly. Now it could be musharaka, joint ownership. It could be declining partnership. Declining partnership, that's a completely different story. This is actually one of the modes of finance that Islamic mortgage companies, or some of them, use it nowadays. They get involved in a joint ownership. So you buy 5% or 3% of the property. They buy 95%, and then they apply what's called the declining partnership, as I will be explaining. Murabaha, and as I said, the bank actually has to purchase the property before selling it back for a markup. So the bank has to take the risk and the liability of owning, being fully responsible for that property in between, in limbo, like in that 1 or 2 days or 2 hours in between. If something happened, the bank actually is the liable party. The loss will be incurred completely by the bank. If it is applied as such, the muamala is halal. Okay? If it is proven that the bank is not taking a risk, I'll give you an example without mentioning names. XYZ Islamic mortgage company in the USA, they do apply murabah. Okay? They ask the customer to pay the down payment from his pocket, and they ask him to go ahead and to close on the house on behalf of the bank. They give him a kind of wakala sirriya, they call it, like a secret proxy, right? So you go ahead and act on our behalf and put the house under your name directly. So believe it or not, the name of the bank is not even mentioned in the document whatsoever. There is no mentioning of the bank to start with. And then they go ahead and just pay, like, the rest of the price to the landlord on behalf of their customer. And they call it murabah. What kind of murabah is this? When did you own the house? When did you take the liability for owning a house? There was no time where you were fully responsible for the house, and that's why this murabaha is riba, no more and no less. This murabaha is riba because you did not apply it correctly. You did not apply it correctly. Yes, sir.
A question about this, particular contract. Is part of this liability that the person who went to the bank to do this kind of transaction walks away and doesn't end up buying the house? Or there could be something, a guarantee that the bank, to the bank, that this person is coming after the bank purchases the property and puts their name, and they're going to definitely buy the property from.
That's Habibna called bay'ul urbun. Bay'ul urbun actually is allowed in some madhahib and not allowed in some other madhahib. Bay'ul urbun actually is to ask for a down payment to prove the seriousness of the customer. To my knowledge, bay'ul urbun actually is halal. Like if you want to finance a house for me, you can tell me, listen, give me $5,000 urbun, down payment, okay? Earnest money, whatever you call it. And I'm going to buy the house. If you change your mind, you're going to lose the 5,000. Okay? If you change your mind, you're going to lose the 5,000. Would that be fine? The answer is yes. But this is not the problem. The problem here is that there are no two different closing, or there is no proof that there was a title transfer from the landlord to the bank before selling that house to the final customer or the client. And this is actually where the abuse or the misuse of the murabaha comes from.
Maybe building on the same question, if I may. Now, some opinions that say if you will go to the bank, based on the murabaha, if the bank would buy the property and sell it back, that's jaiz. Some opinions say if the bank is buying for that intent, so they are not actually in the business of buying houses or cars or whatever, but you go to them to tell them, I need you to buy for me the property, whatever it is, the car, whatever it is, and this is not their business, then there is a question mark here, because it's a kind of a turnaround to make the bank, the lender, own the property or whatever is the merchandise, where actually they're really the lender. So they are the lender, but for you, I will buy it and then I will sell it back to you, add in my fees, whether it's interest, whatever I want to call it. I will own it as a bank, but I'm doing that for you. If you're not coming to me, I will not buy the car and I will not buy the house. So I've heard this opinion where some other, and in Egypt or some other places, so Bank Nasser or Bank Faisal, they have the business of buying cars and selling it to the public. So they are in that business. So I don't know what's your opinion on that.
To be honest, Habibna, murabaha, whenever it is implemented properly, it is the least preferred mode of finance. It is the least preferred mode of finance. Because in the Islamic finance system, you can classify those different modes of finance into two different categories. Debt-based debt-based finance as opposed to equity-based. The murabaha actually is a debt-based one, because the bank jumps in to purchase the property and jumps out by selling the property. So like within one day you end up owning the house as a customer, and you owe the bank the total amount, the principal and the profit on top of it. There is no musharaka, there is no partnership, there is no contribution from the bank in covering the expenses of maintenance or tax or insurance, because again, it is a debt-based. It is a debt-based, as opposed to the musharaka one, which is the most preferred one, if it is implemented correctly, right? Because the musharaka actually is an equity-based. Musharaka is an equity-based. What if the murabaha is abused? Okay, the more you abuse it, or the bank abuses it, the more haram it will be. Okay, we end up like in certain cases where the murabaha actually is no different whatsoever from the conventional mortgage. Okay, because the bank is not owning, the bank is not transferring the title, the bank is not even mentioned in the paperwork, the bank is not buying before selling. What kind of murabaha are you talking about? You see, so their application of the murabaha actually is wrong. Let's move on with the ijara one. Ijara actually means lease to own. So again, the bank has to own the property and has to act as the lessor, right? Lessor. And the customer has to be the tenant for maybe 20 or 30 years. Upon that agreement, like whenever you rent that house for 20 years or 30 years, of course they make money from the lease revenue. Once they reach the goal that they are looking for, they transfer the title to you for $1 or for $10, something nominal, and just, you own the house. That is the ijara one. Now, the challenge here in this society in the USA, you cannot, as a bank, you cannot own the property for one day. How can you convince me that you can own the property for 30 years? That makes no sense, right? So the ownership actually is so questionable. And that's why if you go to AMJA declaration that we posted in 2004 regarding the Islamic mortgage companies, where is this point? That banks cannot own properties, period. Okay? And that's why the ijara is like very questionable. Its authenticity is very questionable. The murabaha is very questionable, because you cannot own a house unless otherwise proven. Now let's go with the musharaka one. Not the partnership, but the declining partnership, which is a mode of finance. Declining partnership, where the company actually is getting involved in owning the house exclusively to facilitate for you owning your own house. Okay, let's take an example. Just imagine for discussion purposes, which is absolutely not the case. I just want to make a disclaimer. There is no genuine, sound, 100% Islamic finance practice in this society, with very few exceptions. The USA, all those so-called Islamic mortgage companies do not apply Islamic finance perfectly fine. A lot of glitches and violations in their contract. Just for discussion purposes, just imagine that we live somewhere, somehow, where Islamic finance is 100% implemented. Very like sound, very genuine, very authentic one. Just for discussion purposes. And let's say that we have two brothers here, or two sisters, want to finance a house. The first brother here decided to go with Bank of America, right? And he was approved for $500,000 to be paid back $800,000 within the next 30 years, right? And Dr. Ahmed, for example, decided to go with the Islamic mortgage company. He was approved for $500,000 to be paid back $800,000, right? A third gentleman is just passing by, okay, looking at the situation. What's the difference between Brother Amr and Brother Ahmed? Okay, both of them borrowed $500,000, and both of them have to pay it back how much? $800,000. What is the difference? That's a very innocent question, and it's not, subhanAllah, it's not something new. Like that kind of misunderstanding or confusion is not new. It was raised during the revelation of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually reported that misconception in the Quran. ذلك بأنهم قالوا إنما البيع مثل الربا. Some people said that riba agreement is equivalent to sale agreement. وأحل الله البيع وحرم الربا. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted sale agreement and prohibited the riba one, right? So again, that confusion, that misunderstanding is not a brand new issue. It has been raised, for a while. Let's apply this ayah, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. What is the difference between your deal and his deal? If you zoom out, okay, the outcome result is the same. 500,000 to be paid back 800,000 within the next 30. 500,000 is to be paid back 800,000. In reality, you borrowed $500,000. You borrowed $500,000, and from day one, you are fully responsible for maintaining the property. Any kind of tax or insurance or maintenance is your absolute responsibility. Anything might happen to the house, natural disaster like what's going on nowadays in Florida, in Tampa, Florida, right? You are fully responsible for the damage of the house. The bank can go after you and ask for the principal and ask for the interest on top of it, regardless. Okay, whether the insurance company covers or doesn't cover, it does not make any difference. Any kind of appreciation or depreciation, something happened in the market and the price went up, right? You keep the profit for yourself. Price went down, you incur that loss. So the bank, the bottom line is that the bank is not responsible for the well-being or for maintaining that property, nothing whatsoever. Bank is giving you a loan, you are fully responsible for paying back the principal and the interest on top of it, period. What happened with Dr. Ahmed is completely different. He gets involved in what's called the declining partnership. He paid out of pocket, let's say 5% down payment equity, and the Islamic mortgage company paid 95% of the house, okay? And you can see their name not only as a lien holder, no, as an owner in the deed of trust. You have two different documents, right? You have the deed of trust and you have the title. Title actually is a kind of legal document that shows the ownership, which is the last thing to worry about, right? The deed of trust identifies the obliger, the borrower, financier, the one who gives the money, the bank or the mortgage company, and the third party, the trust or maybe the title company who hold that deed of trust until the principal and the interest is paid off. You will see the name of the Islamic mortgage company on the title as a co-owner. They own the house, right? You will see their name on the deed of trust as a partner with you as well. Now, we ended up that you, Dr. Ahmed, own 5% and the mortgage company owns 95%. Now, you want to occupy that house. You want to take your wife and kids and live there while you own only 5%. So it makes a lot of sense that you pay them rent for the share that you do not own. But the goal actually behind this partnership is for you to own the house exclusively down the road, right? So based on the declining partnership, if let's say the fair rental value of that house is $3,000, the Islamic mortgage company would ask you to pay $3,500. 3,000 rent, $500 equity, right? $500 equity. So you start 5% ownership, 95% the company. After 1 or 2 months, you become 6% owner. Their ownership goes down to 94, 7%, 93, 8%, 92, all the way toward the end of the 30th year. Once you make the very last payment, you kick them out of the deal. That's why they call it declining partnership. Technically speaking, you do not pay $3,000 for the rent, okay? In the first payment, $3,000 for the rent, $500 for the equity. Next month, it's gonna be maybe $2,900 rent, right? $600 equity, because actually you own, and you don't have to pay rent for the percentage of ownership that you own. But the amount that you pay, is a fixed one. Not only that, every now and then, maybe annually or biannually, you and the Islamic mortgage company have to reevaluate the whole agreement. You need to do a kind of appraisal. It doesn't have to be like an official appraisal. Why? To find out whether or not the market value, okay, the market value and the rental value of the house is still the same. It might be increasing, it might be decreasing. So you adjust or you modify the monthly payment based on the fair rental value because you are renting, and the fair market value because you are buying. Are you catching up with me here? That actually has to be done periodically to make sure that the payment that you are making is as just, as fair as possible. No, no. This is actually against the principles of musharak. You might pay way more than the market value of the house. Something happened to the housing industry, okay, and the market value went down. Why you continue paying them $3,500 dollars a month while the fair rental value is only $2,000? See what I'm saying? Likewise, something happened and the house get appreciated, okay, which is the case nowadays, right? Like post-COVID, I mean the housing industry is like winning going up too high. Anyway, so the market value actually went up. Why you continue paying 3,500 while the fair rental value and the fair market value is 5,000? So in order for you to apply again, I'm talking about the very ideal situation. The very ideal situation, you need to do appraisal or re-evaluation, whatever you want to call it, every now and then to make sure that the fair rental value and the fair market value is still there. And you adjust the payment. You increase, you decrease based on the actual value, the fair rental and fair market value. Is that clear? طيب, let me give me just 1 or 2 seconds. So not only that, you decided, okay, let's say that after 1 or 2 years you became 10% owner, okay, Dr. Ahmed, and they own 90%. Okay, just for discussion, the total expense for maintaining the property was $10,000 between maintenance and tax and insurance. You pay out of pocket only $1,000, and they have to pay out of pocket how much? $9,000. Okay. After, let's say, 15 years, you became 50% owner, and you said, you know what? I'm not gonna stay in Ohio. It's too cold. I'm gonna just go down to Houston, Texas. Okay, that's fine. Put the house in the market and sell it. Something happened. Okay, something happened. There was a lot of appreciation. Okay, so the market value increased $100,000. Believe it or not, you put in your own pocket $50,000, and they receive $50,000 whenever you terminate the agreement. Okay, vice versa. Something happened. The market value went down. You lose 50,000, and they pay out of pocket 50,000 loss, right? Eminent domain, the county or the state took over the property. Eminent domain, natural disaster, like again what's going on nowadays in Florida, and the insurance company did not cover. They have to pay out of pocket their share based on percentage of ownership proportionally. You own 50%, they own 50%. Fixing that house, cost $10,000. They pay $5,000, and you pay $5,000. So you see actually how much involvement and how much risk and liability the Islamic mortgage company actually is taken whenever the Islamic finance is genuinely in very sound way implemented, which is unfortunately not the case nowadays. We do not have genuine sound. Okay, as long as you have any business to do in the secondary market, you cannot be independent. You cannot apply, Islamic finance 100% perfectly fine. So as you see here, declining partnership, maintenance, tax, insurance, appreciation, depreciation, guaranteeing the principal amount. They cannot guarantee the principal, by the way. They cannot. Okay, they cannot say, oh, we paid on your behalf $400,000 for this deal. If you want to terminate the agreement, that's fine. Pay us $400 and the rest is yours. They cannot do that, right? Because this is actually sharikatu aqd. This is contractual partnership and not acquisition partnership. تفضل. generally speaking, agreement between people actually is binding, unless it prohibit whatever is permissible or permit whatever is prohibited. In this very particular example, having like a fixed payment for the rent and for the equity would be acceptable, barely acceptable, but it does not guarantee the highest level of justice and fairness. But actually, it is still valid. But not every single agreement, okay, is binding, because, please excuse the example, a man and woman agreed, to do something outside, the marriage contract. Well, they did agree, but that agreement actually is standing against the Islamic principles. They cannot do that. So not every single agreement is binding. Okay? When it comes to business transaction, your particular example actually is acceptable, but it does not reflect the highest level of fairness and justice that you are looking for. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if you're going to cover this or not, but there's a little bit of confusion about having two contracts at the same time that it is prohibited. And in here you have a partnership, contract, and then you're contracting as a resident, or like you're renting that property that you're a partner of. So can you comment on this
Not every
situation?
no, not not every single like combination of two contracts in one would be prohibited. Okay, and this is actually based on like declarations of different majami' fiqhiyya, fiqh councils. If there is a harmony, okay, and compliance between the two different agreements, right, and they serve the best interest of the two contracting parties, that would be fine. Like, for example, rent and own. Okay, the ultimate goal is for you as a customer to own your own house. And if you want to apply musharaka, you cannot do it unless you do declining partnership. And based on the declining partnership, okay, you have to rent whatever you do not own, and you have to buy gradually from that shares until you become the exclusive owner. Unlike if the two agreements are different in nature and suspicious in nature. For example, I told you, okay, I'm going to give you $5,000 loan, interest-free loan, with one shart, with one condition, that you purchase my car for $10,000. There is something fishy here. Okay, I'm giving you $5,000 interest-free loan. Okay, why I'm adding a condition that I will not give you the money until you buy my car for $10,000? There is a slight possibility that the market value of my car is only $9,500, and I'm asking for how much? That $500 could be the hidden riba in this deal. You see? So instead of me charging you explicit interest, okay, I'm taking that interest from the other contract. So there is a loan agreement and there is a sale agreement, and they are different in nature. Okay, they have like irrelevance. There is like no connection between the loan agreement and the sale. The fact that I'm putting a condition or stipulating giving you $5,000 cash money as a loan, interest-free loan, connected with sale agreement, and I'm the one who is imposing the price on you. I didn't say, okay, go to KBB or go to CarMax and find. No, this car is for 10,000, right? And if you purchase it, here is 5,000. Okay, that's why نهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن بيعتين في بيعة عن بيع وسلف, and so on and so forth, because of that, potential suspicion or like hidden riba that might be involved in it. Make sense? طيب. Yes, sir. You said the previous slide?
The previous slide, sorry.
This one?
Yeah, the last bullet point is foreclosure and then the natural disasters. Let's take those two examples, and I'm trying to understand what exactly is the difference between the financial institution that gives you a loan, right? He's a lender, he's an owner, and I'm trying to understand what's the difference over here. In case of a foreclosure, the owner is not able to
I think, akhi, there's difference between foreclosure, eminent domain, natural disaster. Natural disaster actually is a certain scenario where a severe damage actually is taking place, right? While the insurance company does not cover for whatever reason. So someone actually has to pay out of pocket to repair that damage, right? And the Islamic finance, well, like when the musharaka is fully implemented and you own 30% of the house and the Islamic mortgage company owns 70%, right? Then they have to cover 70% of the damage repair cost, right? And you pay only 30%. Why? Because you own 30% and they own 70%. Eminent domain. The state of Ohio took over the house, like demolished the house to make a park or whatever street, right? And they did not compensate you well. That like they did not give you the actual market value of the house. There was a loss here. You incur only 30% of that loss, and the mortgage company incurs 70% of the loss. Foreclosure. What does mean foreclosure? You just walk away. You stopped paying. So the bank actually, because they do have a lien over the property, they mortgage the property, they just go ahead and repossess the property, right? Okay. In the real life, to my knowledge, whenever there is a foreclosure, the mortgage company does not go after you and ask for the principal because you foreclosed. However, you're going to lose all the payments that you have made. All the equity that you have made in the past will be just gone. So they repossess the property. Now, if the Islamic finance or the musharaka is implemented perfectly fine, even if there is a foreclosure, right, you are responsible for your percentage of ownership, and they are responsible for their percentage of ownership. Whether you stop that agreement willingly or against your will, it doesn't make any difference. Now, if you are like insolvent and you file bankruptcy, that's completely different discussion. But the default rule here is that you terminated the agreement. You stopped paying them, right? Well, let's sit down and find out what's going on. How much you own? 30%. You are fully responsible for the 30%. They are fully responsible for the 70%. Clear?
Yes, from an Islamic loan perspective, it's clear. If the same thing happens in a traditional loan, the lender at that point becomes the owner because the lender takes the ownership of selling the house. The onus is upon them to sell the house. It's a foreclosure, it's a natural disaster. At that point in time, that entity is no longer a lender. That entity is now an owner in a traditional mortgage sense.
In the traditional mortgage, once you foreclose, you lose the equity that you have made, right? But the bank or the finance company cannot go after you and ask for the principal. So it is like profit follows liability, right? You lost your equity, and like in return, you are not responsible for the principal that they invested with you. Maybe we can discuss it like
I was actually going back to owner finance with interest is acceptable. So in this particular clause, the situation makes the lender as an owner is what I'm trying to say.
طيب.
We can take it up offline.
Sure. So why riba is prohibited? Why riba is prohibited? Okay, your maybe like non-Muslim friend ask you a very innocent question. You go to the bank, you take $100,000 loan, okay, business loan. You make 20% profit. You pay the principal and 5% to the bank, and you keep 15% for yourself. It's a win-win situation. Everybody is happy. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it hard by saying, no, you cannot borrow money with interest? What is the answer? The answer is that this very particular scenario, although it happens a lot, but it's not the only scenario that takes place in the real life. It is not. In certain severe scenarios, okay, you borrow $100,000, okay, and you put your money in a business, you do not make it 20%, you do not make 100, you make more than 500% net profit. I'm fully responsible for that. Okay, my oldest son, Suhaib, is a businessman. He has a business called Vintage. He goes to Salvation Army and Goodwill, buying like a like very old clothes, maybe useless clothes, right? He just like reprocess them, clean them. He says, Baba, sometimes I pay $5 for the shirt, $5, and I sell it for $50, 50. Okay, if he pays out of pocket $5 and sells it for $10, Jazakallah khair, his profit rate is how much? 100%. Is that correct? If he makes $15, that's 200%. If he makes $50, how much is profit rate? Maybe like more than 700 or 1000%. That's an actual real example. So if my son, alhamdulillah, he doesn't borrow money from banks. If he is to borrow money from a bank, right, and makes 1000%, 500 يسيدي بلاش 500% net profit, is it fair enough? Okay, I'm talking about, you know, the ideal situation. Is it fair enough for him to keep 495% net profit and give the bank only just, you know, some changes, some fraction, only 5%? Where is the justice here? You see the argument? Now this is a very extreme example. The other extreme example, okay, someone borrowed $100,000 from Bank of America in March 2020. What happened at that time? COVID-19. After taking the money, the whole system actually was just frozen because of COVID-19 for maybe 6 months or 1 year. That miskin, that, you know, poor individual was unable to function, unable to make profit, unable to break even. Well, he lost the money. He lost the principal. Well, the bank actually, by the law of the land, does have the right to go after him in the court, in the courthouse, and ask for the principal and ask for the premium on top of it. Am I correct? And the same question, where is the justice here? So my answer is that whenever interest is implemented in any finance system, it brings a lot of financial exploitation and a lot of injustice, a lot of dhulm. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want dhulm, okay, and oppression to be implemented on earth. In fact, Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who has made it clear that the main reason behind sending all the prophets and all messengers and all scriptures and books actually is to implement justice on earth. He said toward the end of Surah Al-Hadid, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ. We have already sent our messengers with the clear evidences. وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانِ. And we sent down with them, with the prophets, al-kitaba, scripture, and al-mizan. Al-mizan is the balance, which is a symbol of justice. Is that correct? Okay. As if someone is asking a question, why, Ya Allah, you did all that? قَالَ لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. Subhanallah. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. So people may maintain their affairs in justice. Justice actually in all aspects of life. Justice in aqidah, you worship none but the one who created you, the one who provides for you. Justice in ibadah, you pray 5 times daily. You can pray like sitting if you cannot stand. You fast in the month of Ramadan. If you cannot, that's fine. You can skip it because of illness, because of traveling, and you make it up later on. You pay only 2.5% from the extra wealth that you have. That's the justice. As well as justice in muamala, right? Whenever you trade with other people, justice actually has to be implemented. It's absolutely unjust and unfair, and there is no justice, okay, if you give the principal and you guarantee it, and you ask for the principal to be guaranteed and for the return on top of the principal to be guaranteed. So my answer is that whenever riba is implemented in any finance system, it brings a lot of injustice, a lot of dhulm, a lot of financial exploitation. The one who is calling for riba to be implemented is standing against Allah's will. Allah Azza wa Jal wants justice, and you apply otherwise. And that's why riba is haram every time, everywhere, okay, for everybody, for every reason. There is no exception here. Oh, Abu Hanifa says, rahmatullah radiyallahu anhu, if you live outside the Muslim land, you can. Well, with all due respect, that particular opinion within the Hanafi school of thought is incorrect, is absolutely incorrect. The Jumhur, actually, the majority opinion actually is the correct one. الربا حرام فوق كل أرض وتحت كل سماء. ما تقوليش بقى مش عارف والله ساكن في أمريكا ولا ساكن في مكة it does not make any difference, right? Riba is prohibited every time, everywhere, for everybody, for every reason, period. Likewise, zina is haram every time, everywhere. Sariqa, stealing, is haram every time. That is the nature of the divine rule. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibits something, it is prohibited all the time, for everybody, for every reason, with no exception. So riba actually is haram every time, everywhere, for everybody, for every reason. Of course, as a Muslim, yes sir. خمسة فرفشة. طيب. Okay, let's take 5 minutes break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we are about to conclude, and you see that how much the Muslim community needs education in this in this field, which is Islamic finance. Take for example the cryptocurrency and the student loans, the retirement accounts, and investing in the stock market and insurance and home mortgage and banking. One of the challenges that we face here is that we need to know what is haram and what is halal, so to be able to implement and just practice and flourish financially without compromising our principles. That is one of the biggest challenges that we face actually in this society. That's actually why Guidance College actually is a very promising project. We offer masters in Islamic economics and finance. Masters in Islamic economics and finance. Imagine that we have tens, if not even hundreds, of like highly specialized Islamic finance, not practitioners, but at least like specialists, like someone who masters fiqh al-mu'amalat, right, the fiqh of transaction, and understands completely, deeply the mechanism of the finance system in the USA, and he or she can like put those two different branches of knowledge together to come up with fatwa and to explain to the Muslim community what's haram and what's halal. Guidance College, alhamdulillah, is now fully accredited by ASIC, which is one of the most prestigious accreditation agencies in the United Kingdom. We are on the process of getting the school, inshallah, accredited in the USA. Inshallah, within less than 2 years, you will be hearing the good news that Guidance College became fully accredited in the United States. It is a purely online university, and it is an evening and weekend college. So Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, we do not hold the classes, everything in the evening. We do this actually purposely to make sure that our students do have the flexibility of joining different colleges during the day, or business or job or career, whatever they want, and in the evening from the convenience of their of their homes, they can just join Guidance College. You can be a degree student, you can be a non-degree student. You just pick and choose the classes that you would like to take. In addition to this program, we have masters in Islamic education and bachelor's degree in Islamic studies. That's it. Only 3 different departments we have. It's a very small size college, just to make sure that inshallah we'll reach the accreditation as soon as possible. And then we have a plan to add like more majors, inshallah, including having PhD in Islamic studies. Give me just 1 second, please. So it is an evening and weekend, very affordable tuition fees. And alhamdulillah, we do have our own in-house scholarship and financial aid. For the Muslim community to function well, we do have a like short-term solution and long-term solution. The short-term solution actually is to support and enhance those attempts that you see here or there. Several Islamic mortgage companies, they are like laysu sawa. Some of them are really serious in providing a Sharia compliant option. Okay, some of them are good enough. Some of them are up to certain limit, mashi al-hal, yani halal enough, and some of them actually are not, right? So we need to support and enhance and study very well the model, like a mode of finance that those companies actually do, and just go with the Sharia compliant one. Muslim community actually has a lot of money, financial resources. There are hundreds of millions of dollars owned by the Muslim community scattered all over the country. What does it take for Muslims, and instead of like going with the easy solution, try to find excuses how to deal with riba, why do not we go with the hard solution by putting our resources together and establishing our own Islamic institutes? We can be as strong as some other minorities here in this society through syndication and crowdfunding. Syndication means that you tap on the resource of your own community, right? Very good example is Amin Housing. Amin Housing is an independent Islamic mortgage company located in California. They have nothing to do with the secondary market. It's a contribution-based one. Okay, you sign up, you pay like monthly contribution, and that contribution will be like saved for you whenever it is your time. You pick and choose the house that you want, and they purchase it based on declining partnership. They do it almost in a perfect way. Okay, they share the maintenance and the tax and the insurance and appreciation. Everything actually is shared. They shared their contract with me and with Sheikh Salah Hassawi and Sheikh Jamal Zaraboz, I think 10, 12 years ago. we found some glitches in the agreement. We corrected them, so they should be good enough. The only disadvantage of this option, which is Amin Housing, is their financial capacity is too limited. They cannot finance more than maybe 40 to 50 different houses a year, which is something very insufficient for the increasing need for the Muslim community. We do have some mutual fund companies, okay? Mutual fund like Zaki Financial, like Iman Fund, like Amana Fund, like Sharia Portfolio, like a Zad Fund, for those who want to have investment. Problem here is that all of them claim to be Sharia compliant, and we as potential investors do not have an access to their database. We do not know what's going on behind the scene. Everybody claims to be Sharia compliant, but nobody can prove Sharia compliance that he is claiming. Long-term solution actually is to penetrate the political system and to lobby like other minorities. Like, in order for you, okay, to practice genuine, sound, authentic, 100% Sharia compliant Islamic finance, you need to put a pressure on the decision makers, policy makers, right, between the FDIC and the OCC and the Federal Reserve and so forth. And you cannot be politically strong without being financially strong. Okay. A very good example actually is the Jewish minority in the USA. Regardless whether you agree or disagree with them, talking about the influence that they are making. They influence the politics, the foreign policy and even the internal policy of the United States because of the financial power that they have. Without us being as powerful financially, okay, as the Jewish community, we cannot actually influence the policy in this country. On a personal level, actually, after being involved in Islamic finance for the last maybe 30 plus years of my life, between outside the USA and USA, I reached to a conclusion that getting involved and educating the community is good, but it's not good enough. It is time actually to take Islamic finance from theory to practice. So I started accepting consultation positions with different companies. Alhamdulillah, with this like 20 plus years in the USA being involved here, I can easily help Muslims setting their own Islamic finance structure, how to conduct halal business, how to build structure for companies from scratch, how to set together Sharia compliant contracts. Alhamdulillah, I'm now doing this as a side business. It's not my main source of income, but I do it as a side business. You will find me in either as a co-founder or a Sharia consultant on those companies. If you go to Edifice X, artificial intelligence, Edifice X. This is a platform or marketplace to facilitate Islamic home mortgage. We are not a mortgage company. We are just a platform like Amazon, where home buyers go there and pick and choose the house that they want, and home sellers, they can post whatever houses they want to sell, and investors can purchase tokens. So this is a blockchain tokenization based platform, right? We established our own blockchain from scratch, believe it or not. We paid thousands of dollars, okay, to come up with a blockchain that is stable and not volatile. And I want to emphasize this issue, that the blockchain that we built is a stable one and not a volatile one, just to make sure that down the road no one can overinflate the prices of the houses. Because if the token or the blockchain is a volatile one, it might the price might go up and down significantly. We do not want that to happen. So what we do is that we tokenize houses. You want to purchase a house, you go there, you pick and choose the house that you want. You pay as minimum, I think, as 5 or 3%, and we tokenize the 97% of the house, and we open the floor for investors to purchase those tokens. They start making money from the lease revenue, right? And by the smart contract that I design, the home buyer does have the right to redeem those tokens whenever he or she wants. So you can stay until the rest of your life as just 3% owner, and you rent the rest. Whenever you decide to purchase the rest, you can just buy. And those token holders or investors cannot say no. By the contract, they cannot say no. They have to sell you. Now, this model actually is as Sharia compliant as you could ever imagine. Of course, we have nothing to do with the secondary market. Okay, it is like within the Muslim community, for the Muslim community, to serve the Muslim community. We have our own system and software that calculates live, believe it or not, live. Okay, like if you want to purchase a token or sell it, it calculates how much liability and expenses are to be incurred by this token, and how much profit you have generated so far. So you can trade in those tokens as an investor. So three different parties. We have the home buyers and the home sellers and the investors. So you can be an investor, you can be a seller, you can be a buyer. Again, this is not a mortgage company. It is a technology. It is a platform that facilitates Islamic home mortgage. The website actually is not, or the company is not fully functional. We do expect, I would say, by maybe Allah in the beginning of 2025, maybe mid 2025, the whole company, inshallah, will be, or the system will be like fully up and running. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for this attempt to be successful enough, it will be like a very good contribution to help the Muslims actually financing their homes in a halal way. You will find me on sitting on the board of Fi Wallet. Fi Wallet actually is a gold wallet business. Okay, and instead of you like losing the purchase power of the currency or the fiat money that you have because of the post-COVID inflation, now we are losing maybe between 7 to 10% purchase power of the money that you have. Is that correct? So the 1,000 today will be equivalent to $900 next year. If you decide to purchase gold with this company, which is definitely Sharia compliant one, and you decide to liquidate the account, and instead of withdrawing 1,000, you're going to withdraw maybe 1,100 or 1,150, because gold actually does have its own intrinsic value, while the currency that we have, or the fiat money, does not have intrinsic value. The only disadvantage of this company is that it has no registration in the USA, period, because of the bad history of gold confiscation in the past. They get so scared, to register the company in the USA. You can go there, download like their app, and start investing with them. Investing with them in a sense that this is a very passive investment. They do not use your money or your gold to purchase something. No, they just convert the American dollars that you put there in the account into gold, actual, real, tangible, deliverable gold to your house if you would like to. And I did actually inspect the system. I know for a fact that they back up your money with 100% gold, period. In Portugal and Singapore, they have their own yeah, thank you. No. ايش بيسموه بالعربي؟ الخزينة بالانجليزي vault with T. No. So if you decide one day like to deliver that gold to your house, it is deliverable. And they did actually deliver it in the past to make sure that you will find me on Zaki Financial, which is I would say like a traditional Islamic investment company. They have a lot of business to do in the stock market. You can open individual retirement account, simple investment account, brokerage account, mutual fund with this company. You will find me on atina.co. Why it's not .com, I do not know. I mean, what happened to the M toward the end, I don't know. It's just atina.co, right? You go there. Their business model is different. They do not take over your account. They just give you advices. Like you subscribe with them by paying them, I think, $20 or $30, a month, and in return, they send you either text messages or emails. We bought such and such stocks. Okay, we sold such and such stocks, and absolutely up to you. You want to follow their advice, you want to ignore it, it's up to you. They have a very good service. If you go to their website, there is a search bar. If you enter the code of the stock that you are interested in, the system itself generates a very short report for you. Is it a Sharia compliant or not? Okay, they measure 4 different things. debt asset ratio, debt asset ratio, interest bearing investment, interest income, and they added like a fourth one called the product line. If they do have any suspicion or inconvenience regarding the product line or a side business of some companies, they just disregard it. Take for example Apple. Apple is just like a phone and computer company, software and hardware. Is that correct? Apple actually does have credit card business. Apple does have a TV channel, right? How much profit they make from the TV channel? What kind of shows they offer? How much interest they make from the credit card? We do not know. And that's why if you just enter Apple, it will be like disregarded. Like it is failing because of the product line. This company actually is over conservative at .co when it comes to picking and choosing Sharia compliant financial instruments. As a Sharia consultant, they show me a database, maybe more than 12,000 different financial instruments. Because of the formula that we set together, from the 12,000, they go all the way down to only 800, 900, maybe 1,000 Sharia compliant stocks, and the rest actually are disregarded. So again, when there is a will, there is a way. I can definitely like help the Muslim community setting their own Sharia compliant business. Here is guidancecollege.org, the organization that I'm representing today. Here is my email address, drman@guidancecollege.org. If you are interested in doing Sharia compliance consultation, you can book an appointment through clarity.fm, Dr. Ma'an Al-Qudah. Please make sure that before you leave, you take a copy from this brochure. Okay, it's not a pledge form, just a brochure, just like just to read more about the college. And here is my business card. Within the 10-15 minutes that we have, inshallah, we can have questions. So jazakumullah khair. I'm done.
Facing when teachers come back is there's no jobs in the industry of Islamic finance.
Facing what, I'm sorry?
That there are no jobs in the industry of Islamic finance. So we are training people. The ability for people to find jobs in Islamic finance is extremely limited. So is there a place, a website, something that people can go actually and look for jobs in Islamic finance? I mean, we are training people, you're educating people.
Not
College.
that I'm aware of.
So how would one find jobs in Islamic finance?
Networking, personal connection only. I'm not aware of any platform or website where people can apply for jobs in Islamic finance in the USA. Maybe there are some, but I'm not aware of. I do not know.
My second question was, I just have one more question. In the first, the edifice X that you talked about, what is when people invest in it, you said there was three people, one who wants to buy a house, one who
Buyers, sellers, investors.
investors. Why would one invest in it? Is there a risk sharing? Is there equity? Like, what is the reason one would invest in Islam?
Of course. When you buy tokens, okay, you become one of the owners of that particular house. And because you are the investor, the home buyer actually is paying you rent. This is how you make money. Okay, and he can keep that model as is, like staying as a tenant, okay, as a lessee till the end of his life. Once he decides to proceed with purchasing the tokens from you, you cannot stop him. You cannot. By the smart contract, he's definitely authorized to redeem as many tokens as he or she would like to, because the main reason behind establishing this platform is to facilitate owning houses, for Muslims. No.
Is SQS a Sharia
Where did you get the mic from? We have only one mic. طيب, sorry for the interruption. How much time we have, Dr. Ahmed? How much time we have? 30 minutes? طيب, can we limit ourselves to one question, please, if you don't mind, because we have a 16? طيب. طيب أخي, let's go like one thing at a time. Connecting the profit rate with the prevailing interest rate is okay, because those Islamic mortgage companies, they want to be as competitive as possible. If the prevailing interest rate nowadays is 5%, they do their best to match it, because if they go higher, because of the risk that they take, if they take any risk, then they will not be competitors, okay, or their offer will not be competitive anymore. So to answer your question, connecting the halal profit rate with the prevailing haram interest rate actually is fine. You just watch the market and try to be as competitive as possible. There is nothing wrong with that. Because the nature of their finance is completely different. I'm not sure if did you attend the presentation from the beginning, Akhi? Did you attend the presentation from the beginning? Did you come today at 11 o'clock? That's why, you see? That's why. I took my time explaining the difference between Islamic finance and traditional finance. So you missed that part, yeah. Sorry. Sure. You want to say the question?
So, Bismillah, we have about 16 questions. While we are reading the questions, you can also upvote the question to see if there is something relevant. We can upvote it, inshallah. But the one that got more about 5 votes right now. How do you define money supply in relation to the Fed's interest rate policy? How does this system contrast with Islamic teaching, given its reliance on interest?
You just answered this question.
Answered? Yes, طيب. Oh, خلاص. طيب. My parents bought a house on mortgage. Are my parents allowed to make Hajj or Umrah?
We established that traditional mortgage is not a Sharia compliant one, is not a halal option. Now, for someone to leave the country, okay, to travel without taking the permission of the lender, that would be fine, as long as you are up to date with your payment, because that outstanding balance is not due immediately. Those like hundreds of thousands of dollars that you have to pay, they are due within the next 30 years. So if you pay your monthly mortgage, 3,000, 4,000, whatever, can you go for Hajj? Yes, you can go. If the question is about the financial commitment that you have made, okay, then yes, you can go. If your concern is about the the haram transaction that you get involved in, okay, that person actually has to admit, has to acknowledge that he or she has done something wrong, okay, and his sincere repentance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the very first thing to be done. Like he has to acknowledge that he has done something wrong and has to promise and vow that he will not commit that sin anymore. Now, if there is a halal enough, like really Islamic finance option to refinance with, right, that will be a solution. If not, then he or she has to pay as much as he can on a monthly basis to reduce or to keep the interest to the minimum. Because the amortization system here actually goes that you pay principal and interest. The more, like if you overpay the monthly mortgage, the extra amount will go toward the principal. Is that correct? And consequently will reduce the interest. So if your monthly payment is $3,000 and you can afford $15,000, go ahead and pay $15,000. This actually will keep the minimum, will keep the interest you pay to the minimum. The most important thing is your tawbah, your sincere repentance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your acknowledgement of the sin that you have done, and your promise between you and your Lord Azza wa Jalla not to commit that sin anymore. Can you go for Hajj? Yes, you can, as long as you maintain your monthly mortgage payment, paying it on time.
Should I use my 401k to pay off my mortgage, given I have a house with 3% APR and no other savings or businesses?
Paying the tax actually is a legal obligation. Tax evasion is not allowed in Islam. You live in a society where every single individual pays income tax, including Biden, the president. So tax evasion actually is not a halal option. Period. I want to make it clear. If you disagree with the fact that the administration or Biden administration is using your tax money to support Israel against Palestine, and people there, you can fight the system in a very democratic and a very, very organized way, right? You can lobby, you can vote, you can make a public opinion that this is a misuse of our money, but you cannot actually hide the income that you make. I mean, let's just make it clear. Through the democratic society, you can vote out anything that you disagree with, but you cannot actually hide your income, okay, claiming or justifying that, oh, I do not want them to use my money, to kill my brothers and sisters in Palestine. Well, go ahead and fight the system through the democratic, channels, and change the policy of the White House and Mr. President. Now, paying the tax has to be done in a halal way. You cannot open a saving account or CD, for example, with the intention of getting that interest to pay your tax. No, your source of income has to be a halal one. And from that halal money that you make, you pay the tax to the government.
I think the Sheikh has a question about retirement plan. So someone has money in his retirement plan, like the 401k, and he has mortgage as well. Should the person pay the withdrawal and get the money from the 401k to cover the mortgage, because to get rid of the interest?
I think those are like two different irrelevant issues. Like when it comes to your retirement account, make sure that your retirement account, your 401k, 403b, pension plan, whatever, is as Sharia compliant as possible, as much as you can, right? Now, if you ended up having your retirement account 80% halal, 20% haram, what you need to do, like to clear your records with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is to dispose 20% of the growth or the dividend that you make from that, or the profit that you make from that retirement account. Can you use that money to pay your mortgage? No, you cannot. That money has to be disposed, right? And from your halal money, you pay for the mortgage. So you cannot like commit a ma'asiyah, okay? And you remedy that ma'asiyah by committing another ma'asiyah. That's like way too much then. So your source of income has to be a halal one, okay? And the mortgage that you have done, if it is the traditional mortgage, you have committed the sin, okay? But when it comes to remedy that situation or recover that situation, you need to pay from your halal money, halal income, and pay as much as you can to get rid of the interest. can you withdraw money? Can you borrow from your 401k to pay for the mortgage? Yes, you can. It's your money.
Is there a particular Islamic finance company you would recommend?
Like if you just Google AMJA, 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 Islamic mortgage companies in the USA, you will read a very detailed declaration that we like issued back in 2014, and there is a list of the several Islamic mortgage companies, starting with Amin Housing, which is the one that we recommend the most so far because they are independent from the secondary market. And then next in line comes Guidance Residential. We have brother Ahmed Rajab, who's a Guidance Residential representative. You can talk to him. We said that according to our declaration, that as needed, like based on need, you can finance with Guidance Residential. Overall speaking, their mode of finance is, I would say, acceptable enough. Is it ideal and perfect? No, it is not. Do they have glitches and violations in the contract? Yes, they do have a lot. Are those glitches and violations ruin the whole deal and make it a haram one? No, they are not. There is still an ownership. Brother Ahmed actually told me that a few days ago they had a meeting to find out like how much loss, right, they will be experiencing because of the hurricane in Florida. So they're gonna lose around maybe $20+ million because they own the house. With every single transaction, they create an LLC. That LLC is a small derivative of the parent organization, which is Guidance Residential. So the ownership actually is there, and in case of natural disaster, they incur the loss actually jointly with the customer. That's exactly the situation nowadays in Florida with their customers. However, they do have some other glitches here or there. According to our fatwa, written fatwa, you can finance your house for residential purposes. Now, last year within the resident fatwa committee of AMJA, there is a verbal agreement, not something in writing, that can you purchase another house with Guidance Residential for investment purposes? Our answer actually is yes, you can. So you purchase the first house, okay, as your primary residence, and you purchase another house with Guidance Residential for business purposes. You buy it and you rent it, right? You buy it from them and you just rent it. So that would be fine. I mean, Guidance Residential comparison to other options actually within the number of companies who have a business to do in the secondary market, they are the best so far. You might be surprised that like within maybe the next few weeks or a few months, some other companies will pop up and they do have approval from AMJA. But as of today, Guidance Residential actually is the best option from within those 5 different companies: Guidance Residential, University Islamic Financial, Devon Bank, Ijara Loan, and Lariba. According to AMJA, guidance is allowed based on need. Devon Bank and University Islamic Financial are allowed based on dire need because the amount of violations that they have is way more than what Guidance College, Guidance Residential has. Bear in mind that Guidance actually operates as an investment company in the USA, not as a bank. So they can own a house. That's why, you see that LLC that owns the house jointly with you. Devon Bank actually does not or cannot prove genuine ownership because they are a bank. University Islamic Financial, the same. They cannot own houses, right? And we have some other two actually, Ijara Loan and Lariba. They have been disapproved completely. They are not Sharia compliant. Ijara CDC or Ijara Loan, as well as Lariba, they are not Sharia compliant, period. They are not an option for you. No. عفوا أخي ممكن يسأل أخونا تفضل.
Student loans and the permissibility, and if there are no parents, the education falls under the category of necessity, and if there's any Islamic alternatives
The official أخي position of AMJA or Fiqh Council is that students have to look diligently for halal by default funding opportunities. There are a lot of funds, a lot of financial aids and grants and scholarships, right? And it's really unfortunate to say that our kids, our students are not dedicated enough to go after those funding opportunities. And it is actually for fact that millions of dollars are returned to the federal government unclaimed because, again, our students are not dedicated enough to go, after those funding opportunities. However, if the financial aid and scholarships, right, and grants are insufficient, then students can go with the subsidized loan, which is interest-free loan for a certain period of time. Okay, they can borrow money with zero interest, and based on that agreement, they have 6 months up to 9 months, sometimes grace period to pay off the principal with no interest. If they can successfully pay the principal with no interest, that would be fine. If not, then the whole loan actually will be converted to an unsubsidized one. Like it will become automatically interest-bearing one. So they can go with this one. Now the critical question here: what if the grants, financial aid, scholarships are insufficient? Subsidized loan insufficient. Can they go with the unsubsidized loan, which is an interest-bearing loan from day one? Our official position as AMJA is that yes, they can borrow money with interest because of lacking alternative, right? Like a student reached to a point where he or she either borrows money with interest or like will be dropped from that college, like no more college or degree for it. Can he borrow money with interest? The answer actually is yes. This could be interpreted as a kind of darura. I wish I have enough time to explain, but long story short, akhi, higher education is not a necessity. It is not. It is a legitimate need. That legitimate need in certain cases cannot be achieved without borrowing money with interest. So borrowing money with interest in this very particular, case becomes a necessity. And no one actually can analyze or compare borrowing money with interest with mortgaging homes. Because when it comes to mortgaging homes, you do have an alternative, which is to rent a house. So the alternative is there. But when it comes to studying, pursuing a college degree, there is no alternative. You either pay money, tuition fees, or you are out of the program. Can you borrow money with interest? Yes, you can. I might choose not to allow my kids to borrow money with interest, but when it comes to haram and halal, it is absolutely an excuse or dispensation for those who do not have any other source of income. Can they borrow money with interest? The answer of AMJA is yes, they can borrow money with interest.
I think along the lines, what do you say to those who view buying a house with riba or mortgage a necessity when they could rent for life? And maybe an example like a father with 4 or 5 children that there is no apartment that can house them, they have to get to a house.
Well, if the Sharia compliant or semi-Sharia compliant options are there, I don't know. I mean, why we make it hard? Yani, if you are really practicing Muslim, right? Practicing Muslim, really care about your connection with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. If the traditional mortgage company charges you 5% interest and Guidance Residential charges you 6% to profit, I'm way more than willing to pay 6%, right, like 1% extra to please Allah Subhanahu wa Taala and to purchase a house. You need to sacrifice. You need to sacrifice. You need to go extra miles to please Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to achieve your financial goal. Right? But I mean, there is no point behind renting houses since the Sharia compliant or semi-Sharia compliant is there. Guidance Residential Jama'ah is halal enough option. How about that? Halal enough. Can you finance with Guidance Residential? Yes, you can. For residential purposes, you can. For commercial purposes, you can. Right? But there is no excuse for you. Are you licensed in the state of Ohio? Licensed there? Are you licensed? Yeah. So that's the solution so far. As we go, some other companies actually will pop up, right? They might be like more Sharia compliant than Guide. But as of today, Guidance Residential actually is a very good solution for those who want to mortgage houses, period. No. Oh, mashallah. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. So here's sister, like you can communicate with her, inshallah. Yeah. You need to give me commission, sister, because I'm making like marketing for you. Just FYI. Yeah, commission is halal, yeah. If it is for me, yes, it's halal.
Jazakumullah khair.
Well, any kind of interest-bearing loan is haram by default. Okay, during like COVID-19 or post-COVID-19, AMJA did allow small business, what do you call it, SBA? Yeah, we did actually allow people to borrow money with interest because of the necessity, because people actually reached to a point, okay, where if they do not borrow money with interest, the whole business will be collapsed, right? And there is a well-known legal maxim here: الحفاظ على أصل المال من الضرورات. Preserving the original principle or investment is a necessity. You have a business, you know what? You have a house, right? And you have a payment on that house. You reach to 30 or 40% equity, and you reach to a point where you do not have sufficient money to continue paying for it. If you foreclose, what will happen? The equity actually will be gone. The initial investment that you put there will be gone. No Islamic alternative. Can you borrow money with interest? Listen to this. Can you borrow money with interest to preserve the initial investment? The answer is yes. That's a kind of necessity. And that's why actually AMJA back in 2020-21, we did issue a fatwa, like for those who wholeheartedly believe that if they do not borrow money with interest to preserve their business, right, they can borrow money with interest. Is that clear? But this is again like very exceptional circumstances. It doesn't apply for everybody every time. No, this is a kind of dispensation based on necessity. No.
The banks that offer money to open checking accounts with them, it requires a certain threshold of money to be deposited for a few months to qualify. Is that riba?
No, it is not, because there is no loan. You are just depositing money, and they charge you service fees, and they tell you, listen, if you maintain $5,000 in your checking account with Chase, for example, those $12 will be waived. So there is no riba here. Sometimes they tell you, listen, if you open checking account with us, we'll give you like $300 deposit. Like we're gonna pay for you $300. We're gonna deposit on your behalf $300. That would be fine. This is actually called hibatun mashruta, like a stipulated gift. If you make business with me, I'll give you $300. Nothing wrong with that. خذها ولا تخف.
What if the business you are partner in carries credit card interest? Is that prohibited riba? What if the business you are partner in carries credit card interest? Is that prohibited riba?
The question is not clear. Partner with. I need more clarification.
Anyone here had the question? Qualified? Yeah.
Give me an example. The question is not clear. What do you mean by partnering with others? Are you a part of the company and you borrow money with interest? طيب. If the questioner is not here, I may kindly ask to skip the question, because like no sufficient details I cannot answer.
On the credit card, what about the contractual agreement that I sign accepting the APR in case there is a delay? I think it's answered.
Clear.
That's clear.
What was the answer? ما شاء الله عليك، مذاكر قوي ما شاء الله. جزاك الله خير ما شاء الله.
Is refinancing the mortgage through an Islamic mortgage company when interest rates drop halal by any means?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. When you refinance, it means that you are financing, but you start like, instead of starting from scratch, you ask that Islamic mortgage company to take over that loan, right? So you refinance with them in a sense that you allow them to purchase that property and just refinance with you. If you are talking about guidance residential, go ahead and refinance. If you're talking about Devon Bank or UIF, please do not refinance because there is no huge difference between what they do and the conventional mortgage. No. So you started with, give me a name. Refinancing with them actually is a kind of like if you refinance with the same company, are you referring to guidance? It's a kind of like adjusting or modifying the agreement. Although they call it refinance, but in reality you are still like dealing with the same partner, right? So you adjust, you modify, the agreement, which is fine.
Question regarding life insurance. Can Muslims purchase term life insurance?
And maybe follow up with that, like if the companies or corporate companies already offer that to employees.
Wallahi, I'm very lenient when it comes to life insurance. I believe that life insurance or insurance in general is just like a contemporary contract or agreement that people created, right? It has no precedence in the past. It's not a loan, it's not a sale, it's not a trust, it's not ijara, it is none of the above. Okay, and all insurance agreements, whether government based or mutual based or commercial based, all of them actually are bilateral agreements with the Social Security in the USA and Medicare and Medicaid. Those are very good examples for government based insurance. Is that correct? Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. In those three different agreements that you have, no one actually is doing you a favor. This is a bilateral agreement. You pay certain premium in order for you to receive certain compensation, right? Social Security Administration is telling you, listen, if you pay me $150 a month and something happened to you, do not worry. Rest in peace. I will take care of your wife and your kids. I'm going to pay your wife such and such amount on a monthly basis until she passes away. I'm going to pay your kids this amount until the age of 18 and this amount until the age of 24, right? Life insurance company is telling you, listen, if you pay me $150 a month, okay, and something happened to you, rest in peace, I will give your family members $1 million wet check instead of paying them monthly. So this is a bilateral agreement, like two-sided commitment, okay? Premium from one side and an insurance benefit from the other side. So we either prohibit everything, including Medicare and Medicare and Social Security, or otherwise we permit everything. I'm actually with the opinion that permitting everything is aqrab li ruh al-sharia, and I do not have actually any issue with insurance. Bear in mind that the number of Islamic scholars who are changing their mind and saying that insurance is halal is increasing rapidly. If you have asked me this question back in 2015 or 16, actually my answer will be like the very traditional answer, that life insurance is haram because of the riba. You pay less and you get more. Okay. Now in 2024, I wholeheartedly believe that life insurance is halal. I do have my own life insurance policy. Whether it is term or whole one, it doesn't make a difference. Some options within life insurance might not be halal. I'm talking about the concept itself. But every single concept actually has to be read like, case by case. Because in life insurance in general, okay, you can go with the minimum premium to get what is called the I'm running out of battery, by the way. To receive the insurance benefit. If you decide to increase your premium a little bit, you will be receiving the insurance benefit plus cash back, right? They call it cash advance. Like whatever you have paid during your lifetime will be paid to your family members. Up to this point, actually, I do not see any problem with it. If you increase your premium more and more, you will receive the insurance benefit plus cash advance plus interest on the amount that has been paid during your lifetime. That particular option is not a halal one. Again, in the real life nowadays, the system is so sophisticated. I don't want to call it complicated. Investment in the stock market is heavily intermingled with insurance. So when you have a life insurance policy, okay, it is an investment and life insurance. So the life insurance is halal to my, to my knowledge. However, that particular policy might be haram one because the way that they invest the money and give you money is a haram way. So it has to be taken like case by case basis. Yeah. If the life insurance is halal, then anything else would be halal. So, don't worry.
Do you pay zakat on school scholarships? For example, you get a scholarship for 4 years in cash, and you need to split this scholarship into 4 years. So is there zakat on the scholarship?
Scholarship and not like is it like a kind of debt or loan that you have to pay back or not? Scholarship like a grant. You don't have to pay it back.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay it back.
Whoever asked the question, I don't think it pays back. Go ahead.
Well, if you did receive money as a grant or a scholarship, and that money stayed in your position for one complete year, then it is zakatable. Yes, you have to pay zakat on it. 2.5% on whatever cash you still have. Whatever is spent is already spent. And the zakat due date, if 1 year already passed and like usually pay your zakat in the month of Ramadan, and that money, that scholarship has been in your position for one complete year, yes, you have to pay zakat on it. No.
But what if the school itself give you the scholarship on a yearly basis based on your grades, but it doesn't give you the money?
So they pay the tuition fees on your behalf. Is that correct? Well, if you do not have money, then there is no zakah. Yeah. No money, no words.
All right. What are the permissible stocks to invest in, and how can Muslim invest their saved money? I think you mentioned that.
Yes.
So I think the websites we already have, and we shared it on the WhatsApp group as well.
طيب, let me just add here like one more thing. If you decide to go to atina.co and you entered a code of any stock, if that stock actually passed the first criteria, the second and the third, and failed the fourth one, go for it. Even if it failed the product line, do not worry about it, right? Just go for it. Because again, like this company is over conservative. Although I'm their Sharia consultant, I advised them several times, there is no point behind adding the product line. Just go with the mainstream fatwa, with MJA and with AOFI, okay? Check the debt asset ratio or capital ratio. Check the interest bearing investment, like a side investment, and check the interest income, right? If they pass according to Atina and failed the product line, go for it. No problem. The ETF, Habibna, is not a financial instrument. The ETF actually is a way of like running the fund or running the stocks. ETF stands for what? Electronic traded fund, I think, right? Okay. And instead of having like hands-on, like humans making decisions and investing, it is actually run automatically, like based on the criteria, okay, or the formula that you set for that index or that portfolio to be run, what to accept and what to reject, right? So it's not an option like stocks as opposed to bonds, as opposed to futures or it is not. It is just the way that the fund is invested. Is it human based or electronic based? It is an electronic one. So halaluhu halal wa haramu haram. You might find the bonds and derivatives in the ETF, and you might find the stocks. That's another challenge. All those Muslim-owned mutual fund companies, all of them claim to be the most strict Sharia compliant ones. كل يدعي وصلا بليلى وليلى لا تقر لهم بذاك. We as potential investors do not have access to their database. We do not know what's going on. When I tell you here today that Zaki Financial, this one, Yeah, Zaki Financial is a Sharia compliant one. This is because I'm the consultant of that company. I do have an access to their database. When I tell you that Atina business is a halal one, because I know what they do. عرفت أخي؟ فwhen it comes to other companies, I do not know. If you trust them and they do have active Sharia advisor and supervisory board, you feel confident investing with them, go for it. No.
Any other questions before? Yeah, we can hear you in the back. الساعة 2.
So let's say I have a halal stock that I want to buy, and I go to Robinhood and then buy a halal stock. The Robinhood platform itself is halal. Robinhood, the trading platform. Robinhood or E-Trade or whatever online platform is there to buy stocks. E-Trade or anything like that online.
Ameritrade.
Yeah, Ameritrade is also has gotten up, right?
Well, this is actually a platform for you to invest.
Yes.
So this is a container. You put in it whatever you want.
Yes.
You can put stocks, you can put derivatives, you can put bonds.
Yes.
So you cannot say that that Ameritrade is halal, because again, this is the platform. Whatever you put in it actually has to be evaluated like case by case basis.
Yes.
Right? And likewise, like Robinhood and others.
So my question is, I use Ameritrade. I buy halal stocks. So that's all the choice I have, right? As an individual, if you want to invest in stock market today, I've shortlisted. These are all halal stocks, but the only option I have is go to Ameritrade and buy it. Is that halal as an investor?
I'm not sure أخي, if I understood your question appropriately. It might be like my fault, but again, AD Ameritrade is a platform, is a container. You put in it whatever you want. عرفت? If you trade within AT Ameritrade stocks, okay, with the minimum debt asset ratio, with the minimum interest bearing investment, with the minimum of interest income, right? Then that investment actually is halal, whether it is within the AT Ameritrade or like simple investment account or brokerage account. It doesn't make a difference. So we don't care about the container or the platform. What we care about the actual financial instruments that you use. No.
Last question, inshallah, so we can prepare for Zoom.
So regarding life insurance, the big objection, and this was actually written on their website, was that there is water in the contracts. Not so much riba, but there was.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought Amja here. Amja's position as a fiqh counsel is still within the mainstream fatwa that life insurance actually is haram. My personal opinion, and the opinion of my colleague Sheikh Walid al-Minesi, who is a member, who was my colleague, who is a member in the fatwa committee, we both believe actually is that insurance is halal by default. So there is difference between like the opinion of ahad al-muftin, like individual muftin within Amja, including myself and others, as opposed to the official position of Amja. Amja is still wholeheartedly believe, okay, that life insurance is haram by default, unless there is a necessity, unless it is offered by your employer, right? Unless it is required by law, okay? But by default, it is a haram one. For me particularly, by default, it's a halal one unless otherwise proven. There is no gharar because actually what you pay for is the peace of mind and the commitment. Okay, yani I know for a fact that if I'm to die today, right, the insurance company will be paying my family members $1 million. So I'm purchasing and paying for their commitment of paying me. From the other hand, okay, are they taking risk? Is there any profit follows liability? Al-kharaj bil-daman. Yes. Okay. They receive premiums from people. okay, in order for them to commit to paying their family members back whenever they pass away. So Prophet actually follows liability. They make a lot of money, okay, for the commitment that they make of paying you or your family members, Allah forbid, if something happened to you. So it is a contemporary agreement that has no precedence in the past, and it should be halal by default. Okay, and the main reason behind it actually is not to make easy profit. No, yeah, we are not gambling. No, I'm acting in a very, very mature and responsible way. I want to secure fund for my family members. I do not want to see my wife and kids standing by the masjid, begging people, asking for sadaqah. Why should I put them in that position? You see my point here? The overall actually picture is that yes, إنك أن تذر ورثتك أغنياء خير من أن تذرهم عالة يتكففون الناس. This is actually the fatwa of the Prophet ﷺ that gave to Sa'd radiallahu anhu when he was about to pass, leaving behind only his daughter. So he wanted to bequeath or donate 2/3 of his wealth upon his death. Prophet ﷺ said, no, that's too much. He said, how about 1/2? He said, no, 1/2 is too much. How about 1/3? Like to be given to non-inheritors, strangers. He said 1/3, and even 1/3 is too much. And then he said, leaving your family members, your legal heirs, wealthy and financially stable is way better than leaving them needy, begging people. So it's all about securing, okay, assuring financial stability and sustainability for ourselves and for our family members. Okay? That's why I wholeheartedly believe that every single individual in this society here, especially in America, if something la samahullah happened, you are by your own. Back home, like in the Muslim society, there is a kind of social security and family ties, and your neighbors and your cousins and your parents, I mean, everybody will pitch in and support whenever you struggle in a financial issue. It's not the case here, right? Why should I put my wife and kids in a position where an imam is making fundraising for them? No, I buy life insurance, and I make sure that inshallah we'll be having sufficient fund for the next few years until they find a way out.